Welcome to Fantasy Fanline.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fantasy Fanline, the fantasy football call-in show, putting you on the air with industry experts each and every week. I am your host, Greg Scalera, here with my co-host, Saunch Value. Saunch, it's a Greg and Saunch day today. No third party, no third man.
The show must go on. We'll be okay. This is what we do. I'm ready to talk some football. I just want to say, how about those G-men?
Listen, it's no secret on this show that I am a Bears fan. And if you tuned in last week, you probably heard that I was going to that game in person. And my wife got us tickets for my anniversary, which was, a really nice, thoughtful gift. It turned out to be a curse. No, it was a great idea. And on the plus side, it didn't rain as much as we thought it was going to. But we got thumped, rightfully so, by a Giants team with no healthy quarterback by the end of the game. Saquon Barkley was taking direct snaps. What were you going to say?
Or receivers. No quarterback, no receivers.
No quarterback, no receivers.
Still got it done.
Yes, you did. And, it was one to forget for Chicago. The Giants are 3-1. Congratulations. Earned it fair and square. And I'm a big Giants fan this week because you guys got the Packers tomorrow. So go Giants.
Oh, man. 8-point dogs. I'm not feeling great about it. And if it makes you feel any better, the only game I got to this year was Monday night against Dallas. And it's the one game we lost, so maybe we should just stay home and watch the games, huh?
Yeah, so if you just don't go to any more the rest of the year, you guys are going to win out, right? Is that the logic?
I think the Bears might too. You never know.
No, let's not go that far. Look, we got a lot to talk about today, and like I said, it's just the two of us today. It's not the first time we've done a show like this. For those of you just joining us this year for the first time, last season, I was the solo host of this show, and Saunch joined us as an expert guest. That was your origin really was as a caller. You started as a caller, you came on as a guest, now you're a co-host. Has anybody had a quicker ascension to glory than Saunch Value on Fantasy Fanline?
Started from the bottom, now we hit.
You're going to be running this company next year, man. But look, we'll be live for the next hour, 618 Fanline, if you want to give us a call. We are a call-in fantasy football show. If you have questions about your roster, you want to call and talk about, start-sit decisions, trade opportunities, rest of season values, anything you want to ask. You got daily fantasy questions, dynasty trades. We're here for you.
Favorite pizza toppings.
Pizza toppings, wrestling video games. We were just talking before the show about how after that Thursday night game, we might just switch to being a wrestling podcast. Yeah, Tommy Donuts writing in. What's up, Tommy? Can't be worse than the Thursday night football game. Look, the reason we don't have a guest today is because everybody quit the industry after the Thursday night game. We're the only two experts left in the entire fantasy football community. So I'm glad that you're here with us today. Albert, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you as well, sir. Tommy was saying in regards to the Giants and the Bears can't be worse than Thursday night football. I mean, do we want to start by talking about that game? Like, the Colts won. It feels impulsive to say it was the worst football game I've ever seen, but it felt like the worst football game I've ever seen in my life. What was it, 12-9?
I think it was the worst professional football game I've ever watched, man. Russell Wilson, I think we owe everyone an apology for gassing up Denver so much. I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. I'm a man. I'm scared now. Very scared about this Denver offense. It looks horrendous. I don't even want to talk about the Colts side because that's horrendous too. Michael Pittman, ADP, not shaping up to be a great pick there. Russ is not shaping up to be a great pick. My guy Judy should have had way more than what he had. Too bad Russell Wilson's washed, it seems, and he just looks for something every time.
Look, I'm going to throw up a mailbag question we got that I think personifies the general consensus about that game. AJ in Georgia just writes in, Russ, WTF. And I mean, let's talk about it. Russell Wilson, I mean, this is the $245 million question that everybody's asking in Denver right now is, Russ, WTF. And like, something is wrong there. not necessarily one thing. It could be a few things simultaneously. I think that there are some legitimate questions about the coaching staff. It's always kind of a risk when you have a group of inexperienced coaches doing this for the first time in their positions. I'm not saying they're failing because they're first timers, because we've seen first timers come in and crush it. And it's not impossible that they figure things out, but I'm not waiting around for that. I'm not going to lose another 4, 6, 8 games before they start clicking and figure out how to run that offense. The defense looks great. Their defensive coordinator maybe should take the captain seat. Hiro Evero apparently is his name, according to my notes. Give that guy the keys and let him run this team, because everything else looks horrific. Clock management, offensive scheme, play calling, and Russell Wilson himself. Like, he just looks bad. The decision-making, the passes themselves, the last throw of the game where he tried to force it to Cortland Sutton, he had KJ Hamler wide open. I mean, it's time, I think, we're going to start hearing conversations about, is Russell Wilson still an above-average quarterback in the NFL? And beyond that, just looking back at his legacy in Seattle, like, was he ever elite? How much of it was Pete Carroll? How much of it was the system? I don't think I'm going to go that far, but you're going to start hearing those conversations in the NFL community this week, and it sucks.
I think he was elite. I think he's just falling off.
Everything that made him magic, like the playmaking with his feet, with his arm, kind of the scrambling, he left it all in Seattle and for Geno Smith to pick up and start using, because Geno looks great. Maybe it's just something in the water in Seattle. Yeah, Albert, I think rightfully asks, would you rather have Russ or Geno at this point? Geno is a top 10 quarterback right now in fantasy football. I mean, where are you on that, Saunch?
I guess you can't go against the numbers, huh? Like, it kind of hurts me to say this, but after last week, I don't feel good putting Russell Wilson back in my lineup. I can't say I feel good about putting Geno in any week, but like the way it's playing out right now, I might lean Geno here. I did say, like, we were going to trust him a week or two, maybe see how it goes. But to get that backup plan, I said I paid $60 fab for Trevor Lawrence, and I'm certainly happy I did now. I might be rolling with the kid the rest of the year. Like, I just, I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. Everyone
Geno
was
Smith
up on
right
Denver.
now is the second highest graded passer per PFF with the 5th highest yards per attempt in the league right now. I mean, We've seen
me more than 10 points. If he gets me more than 10 points, I'll put him in. We've
seen quarterbacks come out and start hot in years past that we didn't feel like we should trust, but we had to because of the numbers, and it disappeared. It turned back into a pumpkin by like week 6. I don't know if I'm predicting that here, but we came into last week with questions about the Denver offense, and Saunch and I were very much like, no, they're going to figure it out. That feeling for me has completely evaporated as of Thursday night. And, every morning before we start this show, I put up on Instagram, a prompt for people to write in last minute Instagram questions. And I'll put up some pictures of guys from the Thursday night game who showed up and showed out and won the game. And this morning I used Austin Eckler because nobody earned it Thursday. Nobody on the Colts. Nope. What's that?
Should just put up both kickers.
Yeah, probably should have. It was field goal fest, but Albert, look, to answer your question, if you're in a 1 quarterback league, I'm comfortable cutting Russell Wilson and streaming Geno Smith until he proves us otherwise. I mean, who's he got this week? He's got the Saints, which is not a great matchup. So, I think we have actually a question about him later on with some other quarterback streaming options. I'm avoiding Geno this week if I can. But geez, man, like, moving forward, I think if you want to hold on to Geno and use him as a streaming option, I think that Russell Wilson's in that tier now where you got to play matchups. And even then, like, unless it's an incredible knock it out of the park matchup, I don't think you can feel comfortable starting him.
You're definitely not feeling good. I'm looking at guys like, as I said, Lawrence, Goff, Geno. I'm at the point where I'm willing to flip the coin on Zach Wilson over Russell Wilson just to see what the kid can do, because right now it's not pretty. I know it's a long year. There's a lot of games left. We can't overreact too much, but it's not looking good as far as that pattern.
Mind you, 2 quarterback leagues, I'd probably still rather have Russ only because there's a world where Geno, falls apart and loses his job. And that's not going to happen with Russell Wilson in Denver. And just in a league format like that where quarterbacks are so scarce and harder to come by, you can't just drop Geno and pick somebody else up. So I'd rather have the job security in two quarterback leagues. Tommy Donuts wants to know who's having a worse collapse from signing with Subway, Russell Wilson or Jared?
No comment.
Honestly, Wilson's giving him a run for his money at this point. I think by the end of the year, they're going to be about even. I mean, Russell Wilson's going to live a much more comfortable life, I think.
Yeah, he's rich and he's not in prison. So
he's got that going
go
for him.
Jared. Definitely Jared.
Russell Wilson is in fantasy football prison. Jared's in real life prison. So, when you put it into context, I'd rather have Russell Wilson rest of season, especially in a 2-quarterback league, over Jared from Subway. But, it's a bummer. And as far as us kind of hyping up the Denver offense coming into this year, I mean, so did the entire community. I think that one is process over results, right? Like you gotta trust your process, and more often than not, things that make sense will happen, but sometimes things happen that don't make sense. And this is one of those things. So, nobody can
fantasy
predict the
football
future.
Never makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's why we love it.
That's why they call it gambling. On kind of a related note, in terms of not being able to see the future and stuff, John W., speaking on behalf of the community, writes in from New York, is it just me, or does pretty much every player kind of suck this year for fantasy? I have some fun research that I'm going to drop on this, but Saunch, what's just your gut reaction to this question?
No. I know the running back, no, not every player
All right,
does not
moving
suck.
on.
Probably every player on your team, if you're writing this question, which I apologize, but no, not every player sucks. The running backs are down. I read Saquon has had the lowest point total for a RB1 through 4 weeks or something. It's for a long time. I can't remember the exact year, but I know the RB points are down, but not every player sucks, man.
Well, in his
defense, Lamar
defense,
Jackson and Mark Andrews, I don't think you're right in this question.
True. Here's what I'm going to lay out for you. I was looking at this last night because I share the sentiment to an extent, and I wanted to see if I could quantify it and figure out why we're feeling that way. Through the first 4 weeks, the top 24 running backs in 2022 have scored 21.9 less total points and are averaging 9.1 less points per game as a group than their counterparts from last year. That's pretty significant. It gets worse at the other positions, believe it or not. Wide receivers, the top 24 this year, have scored 69 less total points than last year. Quarterbacks, 94.74 for the top 12 quarterbacks, less points than last year. Tight ends are only down 1.4 points as a top 12 group. So tight ends, surprisingly, go figure, are the ones with the most consistency from last season. So, I mean, positionally, everything is kind of down across the board. If you break it down a little closer than that, this year's top 3 quarterbacks are the only ones out of the top 12 who are beating last year's counterparts. Those guys being, like you said, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. The other 9 in that top 12 group are significantly trailing last year. So, quarterback's pretty top heavy. Tight ends, the top 3 are also ahead, being Kelsey, Andrews, and Hawkinson. Go figure. But 7 through 12 for tight ends are actually ahead or even with last year. So I don't know if that's really the norm. We're seeing kind of 4 to 6 underperforming from last season, and those are the kind of guys I'm always reluctant anyway to draft in mid rounds ADP. We always say get one of the top guys or throw a dart late, and you're probably happy if you did one of those two things right now. Talking about free guys like Tyler Higbee, Conklin, David Njoku are all kind of in that back end tight end 1 range and are doing well compared to last year. So running backs, 2021, Derrick Henry was smashing this year's running back 1 by 14 points. Other than that, it's just, Saquon Barkley is kind of keeping pace. Running backs 6 through 13 are doing all right too. So all of this to say, and I'll post all this in more of a coherent Twitter thread at some point because I think that this research is interesting, but you're probably the most happy this year if you grabbed an elite quarterback, either an elite tight end or one of those freebies towards the end of the draft. A couple of low-end running back 1s, high-end running back 2s like Josh Jacobs, James Robinson, Cordell Patterson, disregarding the injury, are all kind of outperforming expectations from last season. And everybody's kind of in the same wide receiver boat, except for Jalen Waddle at wide receiver 5, who's the only wide receiver in the top 24 beating his counterpart from last year. But I mean, looking
Kupp
at like
still a
him,
baller.
yeah, Cooper Kupp, Cooper Kupp in 2021 is beating Cooper Kupp in 2022 by 2.4 total points, but they're both at the top of the list.
Unreal.
But those guys around Waddle, like the 5, 6, 7 right now, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Christian Kirk, you're probably thrilled if you have them just based on draft capital. So you're not wrong that as a whole, offensive scoring for some reason is just down from last year and probably down from recent years beyond that. I don't really have an explanation for it. But if you're thinking about what kind of moves to make, maybe kind of take some of those observations and, if you have one of those top-end running backs like an Austin Eckler or somebody who's disappointing, maybe kind of spread the value out across a couple of lower-end options and take a bump at tight end or wide receiver. Dude, I just realized your Real Monsters blanket in the background on your bed. If you're listening on the podcast right now, you have to go to our YouTube and check out. Is that like a sheet? What is that?
It's like a whole 90s blanket.
Oh my God, that is so much cooler than I even realized before you moved out of the way. Wow, dude. The Circa Survive in the background.
We sleep in comfort. I appreciate it. I also have a question. Do you think like this slow start for offense in a way like has anything to do with the shortened preseason and just giving defenses an advantage in a way? Like
is this the first year they shortened it, or was that something that came up during COVID?
I can't confirm that. I think it's this year, but I could be wrong.
I have to go back and look at that. I think you're probably right, but I mean, if so, it's hard to ignore that variable. I mean, if that's been the big change since last season, maybe that's the case, man. I feel like there was a year during COVID where there was no preseason, I think, and they just jumped straight into the games. I think I might just be making that up, and that was a mess, right?
Huge mess. Players going down.
Yeah. My wife writing in from Facebook. How about them Eagles and AJ Brown this year?
Oh,
Kara, get back to work. Look, they look unstoppable, and this is a question that I'm going to give to Saunch because I know how uncomfortable it makes him. Dude, what's your outlook on AJ Brown rest of season? Has he made the jump to like top 8 kind of wide receiver rest of the way?
If you have AJ Brown, if you have Devontae Smith, if you have Dallas Goedert, if you have Jalen Hurts, I'm even at the point with Sanders. You don't put him in your sit-start questions anymore. You just play him. Philly looks amazing. They look like a real Super Bowl contender. It hurts me to say that. I hope they choke in the playoffs, but they're going to make it there. They're going to win a lot of games. They're an electric offense. They have a great defense. They just look unstoppable. That hurts.
How hard was that for you? Are you okay? You need a minute?
I need help.
If it makes you feel better, the only reason that she knew AJ Brown and name dropped him on this show is because they mentioned him on Abbott Elementary, which we're both watching a few weeks ago. That show is based in Philly, and the janitor in the first episode of the show is talking about how excited he is for the Eagles season because they got AJ Brown this year. And, I'm sure that was filmed, obviously, before the season started, but he looks like a genius right now. Anyway,
we all knew AJ Brown was a stud. It really all came down to Hurts. And he looks damn good.
We knew he had the potential.
That was your guy. I know you love Jalen Hurts all off season.
For sure. We actually have a caller in the queue that I'm bringing over right now to our show. Hey, caller, if you can hear us, you are on Fantasy Fanline. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
What's good, boys?
What's happening?
My name's Joe. What's up? I'm Joe from Boston. I've called in last year, but sorry I missed the first couple of weeks of shows. I got banned from Reddit. You guys don't post the shows coming up on Reddit anymore. Did you get banned or something?
No, we didn't. But welcome back, Joe. No, we've done it just a couple times. I'm trying to be sparse about it. Depending on the week and the mood of the subreddit, sometimes it's really well received, and sometimes it just gets hammered with downvotes. So last year was our first year doing this, and we're kind of at a point now where we feel like we're starting to gain followers more organically. But if it brought you to us, maybe we'll go back and take another look at Reddit.
Back to Reddit.
Yeah. There's some degenerates on there that probably would love to call in.
Yes, Saunch is one of them. He's a Reddit faithful.
He's not wrong.
Yes, it's solid. So shout out to that. Yes, shout out to that. What are you sipping on, Saunch? I wanted to ask you. You look like a tall boy, or maybe just an energy drink that looks good.
It's no beers just yet. It's a C4. My doctor
Okay.
friend came into town. I don't see him too often. We were up to like 5 a.m. drinking expensive Japanese whiskey. So I needed a little pick me up for the
Amazing.
show. And
All
here
right,
we
great.
are.
Okay. No worries, dude. Sweet. Yeah. All right. So first point, and then I got who do I start? First point is John Taylor. He had the same amount of points this year as he did last year. So it's super early. You guys are worried that everyone sucks this year. I think it's still really early. The Eagles are peaking a little early, so I hope you might like that, Saunch.
Like that.
So it's still early. So I'm
I'll,
being
I'll share
patient
with
a
you
lot
real
of these
quick,
guys.
Joe, that we just got a YouTube comment from Albert saying, yeah, it feels like the first 4 games are like preseason. So that might be what we end up seeing.
Nice.
Is this first quarter of the season, kind of everybody's figuring things out, shaking off the rust, and then maybe things open up moving forward. But I agree with you.
Right on.
Speaking of Taylor, like he started off like crap last year early too. He wasn't looking great this early on. He had his real breakout towards the end. I don't know what the Colts
Yeah.
are doing, going from Phillip Rivers to Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan. I think they just need to get a young guy now, like stop that trend. And it all really comes down to like if you think Matt Ryan could he won on Thursday if you want to call that a game, but if you think he could be in games, I'm not too worried about Taylor. I am, iffy for that 1.1 where you took him, but I'm not hitting the panic button just yet. Sorry to cut you off. You get back to your full question. I just wanted to point that out there.
No. He could be a good buy low, Johnny Tails. And I like Alex Pierce too, but so yeah, I'll wrap this up. Who do you start? I'm in a deep league, super deep. I got Josh Reynolds or Michael Carter. I think I'm liking Josh Reynolds, but I think Carter might have the better floor. I'm going to hang up and listen. Thank you guys so much. I'll try you next week.
Thanks for calling, Joe.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, bye.
Saunch, what do you make of this? And do you know the latest on Amon-Ra St. Brown? Is he playing this week?
I think he practiced in full.
Okay.
Before I answer that,
You gonna look up some matchups?
oh man, Amon St. Brown.
So look, I feel like Josh Reynolds' value really came from being the focal point of a really high-scoring offense in recent weeks. With DeAndre Swift is still out; he's still banged up. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be back. But this team is the highest-scoring offense in the league right now. They've got the Patriots.
That's crazy.
I know, yeah, just like we all expected. The Lions coming out and torching, and
the worst defense. It makes those points are there.
The perfect combination. And I mean, it's not like even with Amon-Ra on the field, it's not like Josh Reynolds was invisible. I'm looking back at his numbers. I mean, he had 8 targets last week as the only show in town, but 10 targets the week before that. Scored a touchdown the week before that. So, like, he's finding a way to get on your scoreboard every week. Michael Carter, have we passed the torch, Saunch?
I think first of all, I apologize for the Connor touchdown, James Conner touchdown I guaranteed last week. But I did say Breece Hall was getting into, and
your other picks were spot on last week, man. You made up for it.
Penny, Pierce, they're pretty good, but Breece Hall, they drafted him for a reason. I know Carter's still gonna get his burn. I'm looking here right now. The over/under in the Jets game is 45. The Lions game, it's 45.5. Both teams are dogs getting 3 points, 3.5 points. So it's really close. But the way that things have been rolling with Detroit and how bad their defense is and how bad their offense is, I think those points are just. I'm liking starting everyone in Detroit's offense. Is that?
Yeah, it's Reynolds for me. I think higher floor and higher ceiling, to be honest. Because I think that there's a world where Michael Carter just last week against actually a good matchup in Pittsburgh. I know they're not traditionally a good matchup against the running back, but the injuries this year have made them a little softer on the ground. 9 carries, 15 yards, and a fumble. And I mean, that is a possibility for Michael Carter for you this week against the Dolphins, in a game where the Jets are probably going to be trailing depending on the health of the Miami offense.
That's my upset this week.
Yeah, you like the Jets over the Dolphins?
Zach Wilson needs to come and prove himself in a big game. No Tua, Bridgewater's still solid, but I think the Jets need to play their best football in this one, and I think they have a shot.
Yeah. Joe, in conclusion, I think that there's just too many ways for it to go wrong for Michael Carter. Either they fall behind early and they abandon the run game, or it's a neutral to positive game script and they lean on Breece Hall. I mean, there's just so many options for Carter to disappear. And I don't really see that happening for Josh Reynolds this week. So I would fire up any piece of that Detroit game you got. Just like we all expected coming into the season.
Did he say it was CPR? Or
he didn't, and I don't think it really changes things for me.
Yeah, I'm probably.
Would you go Carter in a standard?
If you're in standard, yeah, I'm playing the running back, but half point,
Okay.
full PPR. I think you go with the receiver there.
There you have it. Thanks for the question, Joe. Hope you call again next week. Let's catch up on some of these YouTube comment questions coming in real quick. We got Albert wants to know Jamal Williams or CEH full PPR.
That's tough.
That is tough because they're both really great options.
The way Clyde's playing, I can't put him on my bench. I know Jamal had a great game, and like this is the last week before the bye until Swift comes back, so you want to get all that usage out of him. But like Clyde, we were too early to call him a scrub, call him a bust. Everyone was like, remember when everyone was taking Clyde over JT and Dynasty, and those owners were on full tilt because they made the wrong choice? Did they make the wrong choice? Maybe he's a late bloomer. He looks really good.
Kind of a series of unfortunate events and injuries and things around Clyde's first couple of years. I mean, we found out, what was it last year, his spleen or something? He ended up getting a surgery and lost a ton of weight, which really we didn't find out until after the season. So this year might be our first real look at, true form. Clyde Edwards-Helaire evolved to his final form, Frieza Part 5. I mean, he's the running back 4 on the year right now. He's in one of the best offenses in football.
He's playing the Raiders defense. Yeah,
it seems like they made a choice to really involve him in both the passing and the running game. Who does Jamal Williams have this week?
New England, who actually surprisingly
right, we just talked about
both.
That.
They held them both in check. Last week in Green Bay.
I like the workload better for Jamal. He's just been getting a ton of opportunities. But I think I'm going Clyde here. It's close.
Yeah.
I think they're both going to have good weeks.
We just talked about how much we love playing anyone in Detroit, but Clyde's been balling, man, on a Mahomes-led offense against the Raiders Monday night. You love beating your opponents on a Monday night touchdown, rub it in their face a little bit. You can't go wrong with either guy here. But I'm
squirming, man. I'm looking at Clyde last week with 19 carries, but before that, he didn't top 8 in any weeks. I mean,
he got in the end zone.
He did. He found a way every week, and it's so hard to trust guys with those kind of metrics where they're just like really efficient. But
Chiefs offense, man.
I'm rolling with the Chiefs, Albert, but I think you're going to have a good week either way. And I'm going to put my trust in Patrick Mahomes here.
Can you get them both in your lineup?
Yeah, somehow? I mean, Albert, I'd be curious to know your other starting options this week and who you're kind of flexing over those guys. Because I feel like they're both like top 12, top 15.
They're both
possible
great plays.
Options. Val's the GOAT wants to know, how will Najee do? Val's, are you asking this week or just like in general moving forward? Because I feel like this question might have come in when we were talking, kind of big picture running backs versus last year. But let's look at Najee this week, just assuming that he's wondering, how he's going to do against Buffalo. They made the move for Mitch Trubisky, which is always a good move. Anytime I thought it was for the Bears until I saw Justin Fields this year, but I don't know, man. Najee severely underperforming. Obviously, don't need to tell that to anybody who drafted him. RB finishes over the first 4 weeks, 29, 12, 21, 41. That is not what you signed up for. He's going against an elite defense this week. Buffalo is one of the best there is. It's hard to bench a guy that you spent up that high on draft capital, and he's one of the only running backs in the league still getting a workhorse role. He's top double-digit rushes every week. I mean, Val's, what are your other options, man? Are you looking at flexing somebody off of waivers over him? I mean, I think there's no world really where he finishes outside the top 24, just because, again, the sheer amount of volume that he's getting. And, rookie quarterbacks come in, they throw short games, running back, tight ends, those escape valves. That really helps when you're getting your first look at the NFL game speed. I don't know, Saunch, what do you think of Najee? I'm expecting closer to like a running back 20 kind of week.
First of all, welcome to the NFL, Kenny Pickett. You have to play
Yeah.
Buffalo, Tampa Bay, Miami, and Philly before your bye week. We'll see
And then
how
he comes
that
back
goes.
and get the Saints and the Bengals.
I like those Saints and Bengals matchup over those other four. And you know what? I'm rooting for the kid Pickett. I'm hoping he can get Najee the ball as far as receptions. Because let's be real, Mr. Trubisky, he's buns. Put him to the bench, keep him there. Let the kid work. He's gonna have, they're not gonna make the Super Bowl. They might be doing the right thing. They're throwing the kid in against 4 straight good defenses. There's gonna be growing pains. But if he comes out and looks good, the Steelers offense might take a turn for the best for fantasy. I'm talking Najee. I'm talking Deontay. Not too crazy about Claypool, but Pickens with a huge game. Well, not huge, but 100-yard game with Pickett last week against the Jets. Maybe I know he was a big waiver wire guy for everyone who people drafted and held. That was a great move if you held on to George Pickens, but it's kind of a wait and see. Unless you have like a Jamal Williams who we just talked about, or someone else who you might want to pivot over Najee. It's hard to take him out of your lineup.
Yeah, Vals, let us know your options if you get a chance. But, I would look at him again as like a back end running back 2 this week. There's just too many variables. We don't know really the tendencies of the new quarterback. Like I said, we would expect a running back to really utilize the short passing game, but you just don't know until you see it.
There's a week he's going to get receptions. It's going to be against the Bills. They should be down early, quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see how Pickett does with those checkdowns. Hopefully he can do half of what Big Ben did for Najee, and then you might be a little happier with what you have there.
Yep. Roderick Hughes wants to know, pick 2 flex, Penny, Mostert, Njoku, Josh Reynolds, and Palmer. I generally will strike out tight ends right away in flex conversations, barring exceptional circumstances. So we're looking here at Penny, Mostert, Josh Reynolds, and Josh Palmer.
Oh, I know they ruled Allen out again, but we were high on Palmer last week, and he didn't.
Allen
he didn't
being,
give us. He didn't get
Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen. He didn't give us what we wanted. With that being said, he's still a solid start with Keenan Allen on the sidelines in a high-powered offense. I loved Penny last week. I'm not crazy about him this week. I'll say that right. I think Mostert should be. I think Mostert I have in against the Jets. He's been looking real solid. He could definitely score in that game. Mostert would be one. Oh man, who? Let me think on the second. Who are you liking here, Greg?
Well, Roderick did post a follow-up comment saying it's full PPR, which makes a difference here a lot because I think that puts Josh Reynolds at the top for me.
Okay, I'll lean Mostert and Reynolds. I think those are good plays. If you don't want to play Reynolds, I would throw in Palmer. Hope Herbert could get him a touchdown with no Keenan Allen.
So you're not scared to bench Penny after what did he score last week? 100 points?
Yeah, last week was the week. I don't like the matchup this week. Last week was the week to play Penny. I'm not crazy about him. I like Mostert way more than Penny this week. And in full PPR, you go either one of the receivers. I think I'll lean Reynolds with you, but I won't be mad if you start Palmer and hope for that touchdown.
Yeah, Penny's got the Saints this week. I mean, if he comes out and dominates against the Saints, I think that you have to move him into that kind of
and you play him every week.
Regardless of matchup start, moving forward. But as of now, he's a matchup dependent play for me. Saunch, are you trying to sell Penny high off of probably the best game of his season, or do you think there's going to be more good things in store?
It depends what you're going to get. I would love to take a nice haul for him, but I'm not gonna sell him for pennies. No pun intended.
All right. We should have brought a third person on today.
We're desperate. Somebody call up.
All right. Thanks, Roderick. Good question. Good luck. We're rolling with Josh Reynolds and Mostert. I know it's hard to sit a guy like Rashad Penny off of a running back 4 finish last week. I'm looking at this now. He put up 29 full PPR points.
He balled out, man.
That was something that we kind of saw coming. If you listened to the show last week, we called it with Penny in that matchup against the Lions. I mean, it was bound to happen.
Right sometimes.
We are right. I like to think we're right more often than not. But good question, Roderick. Let's go back over to the mailbag. So for those of you who don't know, you can visit our website, fantasyfanline.com, to submit these mailbag questions in advance of the show. If you can't make it to hang out with us on Saturdays, where we are live every afternoon. I don't think I mentioned that at the top of the show. We do this every Saturday of the season at 2 p.m. Eastern time. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. So if you want to make sure you don't miss it, subscribe to us on all those channels. We have a Patreon with one supporter, Alan Wu.
Shout out Alan Wu.
Al Wu, 3-1 on the season, looking good. Al, we appreciate you, man. We're going to keep shouting you out for as long as you support the show. If you want to be like Al Wu, and you do want to be like Al Wu, go to patreon.com/fantasyfanline. You can hook yourself up with some really nice perks for supporting us, including things like priority calling codes to skip the line, playing a listener league with us once we have enough supporters to do so. And, someday we'll have merch and stuff.
And Axel Hoyer, signed football.
Signed football from Axel Hoyer. That's a deep cut from last week. All right. Oh, yeah. No, well. Axel Hoyer.
Is Zappy the next Brady? Is this going to happen again?
I don't think so, but I don't think anybody thought that Brady was going to be the next Brady when he was first coming on the scene there in New England. So never
Belichick
say never.
Just finds these guys, man. Mac Jones, take a seat.
Let's keep it rolling. Ross in New Jersey wants to know Tyler Algier or Devin Singletary as a spot start at running back 2 in half PPR. This one's pretty easy for me, Saunch. I'm wondering if you feel the same. Yeah, Singletary. Easy. Yeah, I mean, his usage has been cooking in the past couple of weeks. Finally, he's really kind of taking that pass catching role out of the backfield that I think we all expected to go to James Cook. You love to see it. Every once in a while, they do try to work Zach Moss in, and then they remember that he sucks. So I think it's going to be the Devin Singletary show there in the backfield for the foreseeable future. We saw it at the end of last season, and he looked incredible. I think that we're trending in that direction again. You never fully want to trust a running back in that backfield to get a workhorse role just because Josh Allen's going to get so many of those goal line carries. That being said, we don't really know what Algier is yet. I mean, to his credit, he saw an increased workload last week with no Cordell Patterson. He's going to get a lot of touches on an offense that likes to run the ball a lot. They're not great at it, but they like to do it. They like to try. So he's going to lose some opportunities to Caleb Huntley. He's got 15 touch upside. I get it. Got a few targets. And Tampa Bay isn't really the defensive force that it usually is against the running backs, but I'm taking Singletary for the upside here. I just don't see a world where Algier blows up.
I still think they're a great run D, and I would stay away personally. And when I'm ever in a spot start like scenario like this, you just kind of like have to lean on which offense do you trust more, and it's the Bills 10 out of 10 times for me.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Travis Hall, just tuning in. Travis, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for joining us. Who do I start, Tom Brady or Herbert? This is an interesting one.
Saying this, but I think I'm leaning Tom Brady. Freshly divorced Tom Brady.
Fully focused.
Fully.
He's got the Falcons this week. One of the best matches in football for a passing game. Herbert's got the Browns, I believe. Yes, he does. Is this a matchup-based opinion, Saunch?
I think it's hard to bench Herbert that you took so early. It's cool. It's great that you have both of them. I love Brady this week. I think he could easily be a top 3 guy. Same with Justin Herbert, but no Keenan Allen. It's been kind of affecting his numbers a little bit. And
Herbert Brady feels worse than he is just because of his draft capital. He's still top 7 on the season so far. Brady's sitting at 18. Herbert. Brady's been obviously dealing with a lot of missing pieces in their passing game. Mike Evans was suspended a week. Godwin's been banged up. Julio's not Julio anymore, and he's been injured.
They're all back though.
They're all back, yeah. So if there's a week for Brady to start looking like Tom Brady again, it's this week. I don't know how much you want to put into the personal issues narrative, the distractions. I don't think it's gonna. If there's one guy in the world that's not gonna
make
affect,
him better. It's gonna make him
it's probably
better.
Tom Brady. Angry Tom Brady has always been superior Tom Brady.
He loves the Falcons too.
Dude, he has perennially owned the Falcons. I saw a meme that said Tom Brady really gave up his wife and kids just so he could beat the Falcons twice a year. And I think we're going to see that play out. So Both great plays. Floor's probably higher with Herbert, but I think he's got a little bit of a lower ceiling just with the health of that offense. Herbert himself is still dealing with a rib issue from a couple of weeks ago. He's not going to disappear the way that Tom Brady could potentially disappear. I just don't see it happening this week. I think he torches the Falcons.
Yeah, unless Lenny runs 3 in, Brady's going to go off, man.
Yeah. Barring really bad luck in the touchdown equity, which, could happen any week. I love Leonard Fournette this week. Love him moving forward. I talked about him last week. I think it's a buy low for this exact reason. Once those weapons come back, that offense is going to put up a ton of points, I think. Caden, the Colts fan, wants to know, should I trade Mike Evans for Jamar Chase? If you can,
oh boy.
Saunch, is this a no-brainer the way that it probably was a few weeks ago?
It was a few weeks ago, and I still think I would do it.
Also tacks on, I also have Godwin, so getting rid of one of them will be good. In that case, that really tips the scales for me.
I would, if you have Godwin too, you don't want to have too many eggs in one basket. I mean, they're both great plays, Evans and Godwin. Obviously, Evans would be the better play, but Chase will get going. It's been a lot of T. Higgins. I'm taking that trade. I'm cool with rolling Jamar Chase and Chris Godwin as my receivers. I like that. Sounds good.
Yeah, you're going to get a lot more value right now trading Mike Evans than you will Chris Godwin if you have to trade one or the other. And there's still a world where Godwin ends up being kind of an elite top 15 play rest of season the way that Evans is. So I think you're getting the most bang for your buck and still leaving open the possibility that you wind up with, Jamar Chase being a top 5 guy and Godwin kind of coming in as like a top 12, top 15. That avenue is out there. So I'm taking a shot at it. Good question. He wants to know also, should I trade Lamar and Godwin for Carr and Adams? I'm assuming this is the same team. I would much rather do the Evans for Jamar Chase deal.
Yeah, I'm not giving up Lamar Jackson right the way he's balling. No chance.
So I guess this is his team. I would roll with Lamar, Kamara, Jeff Wilson Jr., Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Goddard, and Godwin.
That's great.
Honestly, that sounds unstoppable.
If you can put yourself,
if you can put yourself in that position, go for it, man.
Yeah, hold Lamar Jackson for sure. Yeah, we're hoping Alvin Kamara could get going.
Yeah, he's another hard one to bet against despite the slow start. He's just so talented.
It's Alvin Kamara. You play him anytime he's active.
He's going to find a way to production. In the first game that he comes out and drops like 30 points, we're all going to feel stupid for trading him for cheap.
Justin Jefferson, Chase, and Godwin, man, that gets me hot and bothered.
A fellow Greg on
amazing.
YouTube. Greg, welcome to the show. I'm 0-4, and I traded away Swift for Aaron Jones and Tony Pollard. Feel like I needed a healthy running back and a must-win, he says. So I totally...
That's fair.
Yeah, I totally support that. Aaron Jones, I feel like he's kind of in a similar position to Swift in the sense that they're both in situations where they're not getting as much of the workload as we would probably like. Swift, his production looks like a workhorse's production fantasy points wise, but Jamal Williams, I mean, even before Swift got banged up, he was like top 5 in running back opportunities in the red zone. He vultured at least 4 or 5 touchdowns from Swift. Felt like more. So, Jamal Williams equals AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones equals Swift. And he's on an Aaron Rodgers offense. I feel like the upside for Jones is about equal with Swift's floor at this point, and Tony Pollard just kind of pushes it over the edge. I like the trade. Saunch, as the resident Swift champion, you're okay with this?
If I'm 2-2, 3-1, 4-0, I'm holding DeAndre Swift. You're 0-4. You're desperate for a win. You need a guy to play this week. I think I'm doing this trade too. You hold Swift 2 more weeks until the bye's over, and you go 0-6. You don't want to be 0-6. Aaron Jones gets the Giants. Should have a monster game unless Dylan vultures a couple. They both could have great games. I think I'm doing this at 0-4 as much as I love Swift. But for the owners that do have Swift sitting at 2-2, 3-1, 4-0, don't bite on those trades. Yeah. Hang on to them.
Yeah, Greg, I'm with you, man. I'm in a lot of leagues this year, and in one of them I am 0-4. It was just a case of 90% of my team came out of the gate, got hurt right away, and I had a couple of studs. And the advice that I gave on the show last week for people feeling like their season was off to a really bad start and how do we right the ship, one of those ways is to kind of take those high equity resources that you have on your team and kind of spread that value out across your roster by doing kind of 2-for-1, 3-for-1 trades and giving yourself higher value at other positional slots. Because if you have a top 5 running back and the rest of your team is like 15, 16 at the position, tight end 12, running back 20, wide receiver 36, you're not going to win games. Like, you got to spread that wealth and put together a team that can give you a chance to win games. And you can't do that. And obviously if you're 0-4 like I am, maybe it's just a Greg thing. Maybe just this year, the fantasy football gods are smiting everybody named Greg. And I'm going to go with that because it makes it less about us and more about the gods. He goes on to say, after 3 trades during the first 4 weeks of the season, my team is Hurts. Congratulations. Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette, T. Higgins, Mike Evans, Hollywood, Kittle, Dobbs, Stevenson. That's a great team.
That should not be 0-4.
We talked, I think George Cruz on the show last week mentioned, or maybe it was the guest prior to that. Maybe it was Marvin Eloquin. We were talking about you need to examine why you're off to a bad start and make moves based on those observations. Like, if you have a fundamentally good team, which this is, and the coin is just flipping the wrong way every week, that is going to right itself over time, right? We talk about regression of the means. It's going to come back around and you can win the next 4 weeks in a row with this team. But if you're more in a position where a lot of your guys are hurt and you're plugging in guys who just can't keep up off the waiver wire, those are times when you really need to go blow things up and make big moves and just try something, try anything. But Greg, I think you're in good shape with this team. Good luck. I hope things turn around. Keep tuning in. Give us a call sometime. We'll help you as best we can.
And we've seen teams start 0-6 and make runs to the playoffs. So don't hit that panic button too early. It's a long year.
Yeah, for sure. You got this. I think that was a good move for you to buy some wins over the next couple of weeks while Swift heals up, because we don't expect him this week. Next week is their bye, right?
Yeah, he's out this week. Then they have the bye week. Then he should be back.
Yeah, so good job moving some value into your starting roster immediately. I think that was the right move, and I love Aaron Jones the rest of the season, so I don't think that it was that huge of a downgrade. Good mindset. We have some other comments coming in. Kate and the Colts fan started 0-2, then traded Kupp for Evans, Godwin, and Justin Jefferson, and now I've won 2 straight. Yeah, I'll bet you have. That is a great trade.
You got all 3 of them?
Yeah, that's pretty good, man. I'd be curious to know if that was Kupp plus anything or if that was a straight up deal, because if so, I want to play in that league with you next year.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the only time I dish Cooper Kupp. Someone offered me that haul.
And that's interesting because Justin Jefferson started just as hot as Cooper Kupp did in week 1. But I see that you say you're 0-2, so this was after week 2. So maybe the Justin Jefferson manager was spooked. Yeah, that's a good move, man. Let's look back at some mailbag questions. Want to make sure we get through these in the next 10, 15 minutes or so. We will be live. If anybody wants to join us on the air, 618 Fanline. 618 Fanline. We're a call-in show. Come chat with us, hang out on the air, ask your questions. We will give you personalized advice. Pops in Florida. What's up, Pops? Wants to know, is Kyler a buy low with Hopkins coming back? Interesting question, because isn't he like the quarterback 6 right now?
Is he even a buy low? He's right around where we drafted him to be, and he's only going to get better with Hopkins coming back. It seems like they're the worst first half team I've ever seen. And then all of a sudden, halftime hits, Kyler plays some Call of Duty Warzone in the locker room, gets all hyped up, comes out in the second half, and he's the Kyler we expected. Yeah. I think when he gets DeAndre Hopkins back, sky's the limit. He's a QB 6. It's not a buy low. If you can get a good deal for Kyler Murray, a guy with rushing upside, getting his best weapon back in a couple of weeks, hell yeah, I think you should buy him.
Yeah, I think this is a question asked based on the perception of the Cardinals team right now, which is that they stink. And they kind of do. The defense is terrible. The offense in general is struggling despite ultimately putting up pretty good fantasy numbers. So this sounds like somebody who's been watching their games and didn't necessarily look at the quarterback rankings before they asked this question. because I feel like he's a very quiet quarterback 6 right now. All that being
the
said,
team stinks in real life doesn't mean the fantasy points won't come, you know?
Jalen Hurts last year, man, he was hard to watch. I had him everywhere. And by the end of the game, he somehow went from like 4 fantasy points in the third quarter and he would finish with like 26. So that's how it happens with those rushing guys, especially once you give them a few weapons. In 2021, through the first 7 weeks while Hopkins was fully healthy, Kyler Murray was the quarterback 3, and he was averaging almost 25 points per game. Kyler missed a few weeks after Hopkins went out. So looking at 13 to 18 last year, week 13 to 18 without Hopkins when Kyler was healthy, he was averaging about 21 points per game. So that's like a 4-point drop per game, which is significant. He's currently averaging 21.19 points per game. So he's averaging about what he was averaging without Hopkins last year. So can we expect another bump up to 25 points per game with Hopkins comes back?
Why not?
I think that's possible. It depends how much of his decrease last year was from his own injury or just losing Hopkins. But when you get a weapon like that back in your offense with Hollywood Brown added this year, I do expect him to take a pretty significant jump, over the back half of the season.
Zach Ertz has been really solid for where you drafted him too.
Yes, sir. So if you have an opportunity to go get Kyler right now and not necessarily pay top 3 price for him, I think that you could maybe get a pretty good value on him.
For sure. I like that.
Yeah, just catching up on some of these questions coming in here from YouTube. Cody Armour, if that's your last name, that is a sweet name. Cody Armour wants to know, Brandon Cooks or Damian Harris at the flex in a full PPR? Usually I would start Cooks, but that matchup for Harris.
Yeah, we saw what Rashad Penny did to the Lions defense last week. I am 100% starting Harris and Stevenson in any league I have them in.
Yep, the full PPR doesn't scare you off for Damian Harris. Not traditionally a pass catcher.
He just falls into the end zone, it seems like, almost every week. If I see a running back going up against the Detroit Lions, they're in my lineup.
Yeah.
I try to simplify.
Cooks has been an interesting player this year. I have a few shares of him myself, and I'm pulling up his game log here. I mean, the underlying usage metrics have been there. Let me try that again. The usage metrics have been there the entire season. I mean, he hasn't had less than 7 targets a game. He started with 12 targets, 10 targets, 7, and just the catch rate was surprisingly bad for Cooks, who's traditionally a really solid receiver, catching passes from a quarterback that we thought was underrated coming into the year. I think the ship rights itself for Cooks when you see those kinds of usage numbers. Typically, the production follows. We know him to be a good receiver. Like, this isn't an unproven rookie coming in, getting a big workload, and we're saying, oh, we don't know if he can catch the ball. We know Cooks can catch the ball. We know he can do big things with the ball in his hands. So I think he's ultimately going to have a great year in full PPR, despite a slow start, and he's somebody that I like as a potential buy low, maybe after the bye week in week 6. But this week, yeah, I'm rolling Damian Harris. Higher floor, probably about the same ceiling. Cooks has
the matchup's
Jacksonville.
Too good. Jacksonville's quietly one of the best defenses in the league.
Yep. Not by reputation, but certainly by performance so far on the year. So we're consensus here with Damian Harris. But don't be discouraged on Cooks moving forward. I think he turns it around. Kate, the Colts fan, what about Penny and Jeff Wilson for Fournette? I guess this is a trade opportunity. I'm
doing it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm taking Lenny. We talked about that Brady offense and how they're going to be moving forward and how much we both love Leonard Fournette. He's Brady's guy. He's the red zone guy. He's getting all the goal line. I'm taking Leonard Fournette. What's his name is going to be back too in San Fran sooner than later.
Yeah, Jeff Wilson's on a time limit. I mean, he's going to be,
Elijah
getting this
Mitchell.
This workload through what, week 8, week 9 probably. We expect that to expire. So Wilson's a great first half play for people who need wins right now, but Fournette is a big picture, probably top 10 finisher by the end of the season. I mean, the workload that he's getting in Tampa Bay has been elite, like best of the best in terms of, opportunity percentage, target shares at the running back position. It's just been the offensive potency of that team with all their receivers out has been dreadful. And I don't expect that to be the case, now that they're back to kind of full health or closer to full health. The offensive line's been banged up, receivers have been banged up. And we talked, a week or two ago looking at buy lows, you need to look at situations that you expect to change. Tampa Bay was one of those situations because we knew that they were going to get healthier. Jeff Wilson's situation we know is going to change halfway through the year, and you're going to end up with a bench guy.
He did look good, though.
Yeah,
Wilson did look
good. I mean, every running back in that system ends up looking good, except for the ones that they draft highly in the NFL draft for some reason. But, Rashad Penny, there's a world where he loses his job. I don't expect that to happen, but it could happen. Probably not going to happen with Leonard Fournette. Rashad Penny's much more injury prone. So a lot of ways where that can go wrong, and Ken Walker ends up being the guy in Seattle. So I like this trade a lot. And anytime you get to consolidate a couple of lesser options into kind of a stronger option, opens up an opportunity for you to grab a guy off waivers as well. So love 2-for-1 deals.
If the Fournette owner has Rachaad White as well, I would try to get him in on that deal just in case.
Yep. If you can lock up that backfield.
If you have a guy you can cut and like just wasting on your bench, lock up that backfield. If the Fournette owner took his cuff and he's willing to dish him, I would try to get both of them for sure.
Or if for some reason Rachaad White is on waivers, which he's still not owned in probably the majority of leagues, as soon as you pull the trigger on this trade, go get him.
I'll pick him up now and then hit accept. And then you're sitting
even better.
You're sitting pretty.
Better
nice
safe
little
than
insurance
sorry.
policy. We like those insurance policies.
Yeah, he says my league is full of people that jump on huge performances. It's important that you've identified that and understand how to take advantage of it. Way to go. So, back to the mailbag. Justin in Wyoming. Flex 1 in standard scoring. Romeo Doubs, Curtis Samuel, Kareem Hunt.
Standard. I
do
like Doubs.
First of all, who still plays in standard scoring? I feel like half PPR is the new standard, and we still refer to 0 PPR as standard, but that should go the way of the dinosaurs, right? It's more fun with PPR.
Yeah, those are prehistoric times there. I remember those days. Probably gonna go Hunt. I know he's a PPR guy, but I just have a weird feeling that he's due. He's due for a touchdown or two this week. I put a bet on him for an anytime touchdown. That's how strongly I feel about Hunt this week. I think he's a great start. But if you want to lean Dobbs, I'm not mad against. They're going against my Giants.
The Giants, yeah.
Yeah, Dobbs could also be a really good play. Samuel was sick all week, right?
He was. He's good to go, though. Jahan Dotson's been ruled out.
He's out. I know Dotson's out. Yeah. I like McLaurin this week. I also have an anytime touchdown bet on him. I like the guys who, they both scored week 1. It's been a couple of weeks now. I think McLaurin's due, but that's not Samuel. With that being said, I think Kareem Hunt's due. I think he's going to score this week. I think he should be your play.
I mean, Samuel has been, for all intents and purposes, the wide receiver 1 in Washington as far as usage goes, but it's really been low average depth of target kind of opportunities. I love him in full PPR, even half PPR. Standard, not so much.
I usually running back in the standard league.
Yeah, me too. Curtis Samuel, 7 or more targets in every game. It's a great matchup. He's got the Titans this week, but he hasn't topped 80 receiving yards yet in a single game this season. So it's really hard to feel great about him in standard unless he gets into the end zone, which, he might. He's done it 2 of 4 games, so it's a coin flip. And he's gotten a couple of rushing opportunities, tacked on a few extra points, but I just don't see the upside for a guy like that in a standard league. Romeo Doubs kind of doing it all for Green Bay right now. 22.8% target share in the last 2 games, leads the team in red zone targets. He's crushing it in yards after catch, average depth of target. Like, it's happening.
Likes him.
Yeah, it's happening for him. He's not going to be Devontae Adams this year, but high upside wide receiver 2 rest of the way. He's got a middle of the pack matchup, surprisingly, against the Giants, who have been okay in the secondary. I think just because they're giving up so much on the ground.
Somehow.
But it's Kareem Hunt for me. I mean, I love the narrative for him this week against the Chargers team that's been giving up a lot of points to running backs, especially pass catching running backs. And I know it's a standard league, but those receiving yards still count. And I think he's going to get a lot of them. Like you said, I like him to get into the end zone. Cleveland's going to be in a potentially negative game script. Probably going to have to throw a lot to keep up with what should be a high-scoring offense. He's been losing a lot more opportunities to Chubb than I expected when I made him a my guy coming into the season, but he's still
Chubb's been balling.
Yeah, Hunt's been really efficient with his touches, except for the 3 straight goal line stuffs a week or two ago, which was just soul crushing to watch. But
Put it in the past. Moving forward.
I'm flexing Hunt here. Wouldn't fault you for going Dobbs, and I think I throw out Curtis Samuel from this equation in standard. Cody Armour follows up. First of all, do you ever think Sam Darnold will see the start over Baker? And if that ever happens, does that change your thoughts on DJ Moore? Saunch, I'll let you take this first.
Ew.
Okay. Is it my turn?
I think he will get in. Like, you can't be much worse than Baker Mayfield right now, unless your name's Justin Fields. I'm so sorry. But Baker Mayfield he's flaming hot trash. Like, yeah. I know Sam Darnold's not much better, but the way Baker's playing right now, I think once Darnold's healthy, if the Panthers keep losing like they've been losing, you have to make that change. Like, we'll see. I hope Baker's getting a lot of money from these commercials, because he might not get another commercial ever again. Glad he got his bag at least. We're not going to root for a human being to not succeed in life. He made his money, but as far as an NFL quarterback, Baker Mayfield, you are not it. I'm not saying Sam Darnold is, but I definitely see them moving forward if the Panthers keep playing like trash. As far as DJ Moore, I'm glad I didn't take him anywhere. I know he's an elite talent, but look who's throwing him the ball.
Yeah, so in points per commercial leagues, I think Baker's the top 3 option moving forward, along with like Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. And I think I've been seeing a Justin Herbert commercial making the rounds. I can't remember what it was for, and he was kind of just a plank of wood,
Insurance
in the commercial, but probably. But
like that.
And those Baker commercials are actually really funny. And maybe there's a future for him as an actor, but really not as a starting quarterback. As far as making the switch to Darnold and what kind of change it makes for DJ Moore, I'm going to shout out our favorite podcast, the Fantasy Footballers here. We've had a couple of their writers on the show this year. We got another one coming up in November. Jason Moore on that show really drilled into my head, maybe an off season or 2 ago, the observation that changing one quarterback to another mediocre option is never the solution for their pass catchers, even though it just feels like it because it's a breath of fresh air. It never ends up working out. It never moves the needle for those guys. Even though you're just like, well, it can't possibly be any worse than this. The end result 9 times out of 10 is kind of the same. And that is kind of why I didn't fall into the DJ Moore trap this year, moving from a guy like Sam Darnold to a guy like Baker Mayfield. I mean, I looked at Baker's track record, what he did with Odell Beckham, and I was just like, I know that it's different and it's fresh and it's new and it's exciting in that context, but it's not going to fix DJ Moore, and it didn't. So if it happens, no, I'm not buying DJ Moore. I mean, it's nothing that we haven't seen before. DJ Moore is trapped eternally in quarterback purgatory, and until he gets a legitimate
borderline droppable.
Could be.
Sucks to say. We know
DJ Nightmare 14 on YouTube. Hey everybody, talking fantasy. Nice. It is nice.
We love it. We love it.
Thanks for tuning in, DJ. I mean, we're a few minutes over, but you want to take a few more questions?
Yeah.
From the mailbag? Yeah, let's go.
Sure.
Caden wants to know, with my team, do I need a better running back too, or should I just let my team sit and not mess with it? Let me scroll back up and see if I could find that roster. Probably should have done that before I put this question up.
Yeah, it's all right. Taking it easy on a Saturday.
So I guess you're saying, do I need a better running back too than Jeff Wilson Jr.?
You will.
Not for as long as he's the starter, but ultimately you will. And, if that ends up being a waiver wire option, the rest of your team is probably strong enough to carry you in a weak spot at running back 2, especially if this is full PPR. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the running back 2 spot in full PPR is kind of...
It's not as important as we think.
Yeah, it's a lot more replaceable. There are guys that you can go out any given week and grab who are going to catch a few passes out of the backfield. And that's the point of PPR, is to make more running backs relevant. The guys who aren't going to get like 20 carries. Oh, he says he has Elijah Mitchell. He drafted them both. In that case, I think you're good. Man. I mean, it's possible that when he comes back, it's going to be a split backfield, but that's not typically how they roll. So, if they both end up kind of splitting 50-50 carries out of the backfield, You might end up in a situation where neither of them are really reliable, in which case maybe I would look to make a move. But just given the history of that team and the way that offensive system works, it's usually just one guy, right, in the backfield.
For the most part, use check every once in a while.
Well, Debo,
everyone,
yeah,
Debo, but they once they have their guy, they stick to him.
Yeah, I think they'll reconsolidate those touches back to Elijah Mitchell for the most part when he comes back.
It hasn't been like that in like years past, but like over time, I think it's because everyone just kept dropping like flies, and then all right, this guy's the guy, and then they run him heavy, and oh no, he's hurt. This guy's the guy. We're gonna run him heavy. That's how it's been looking in San
What we
Fran.
know is, like I said before, whoever is the focal point of that backfield, it works for him. So, Caden, I think as long as you have that backfield locked up, you're in good shape. Sit tight. He says he has the assets to trade for a running back if they do split. Make that decision once you kind of see it on the field with Elijah Mitchell back. It's probably not going to happen his first week, but if they work him in over time and you're seeing that it's hurting them, make a move. But otherwise, I think you're good, man.
Yeah, you have a great squad.
Don't mess with a good thing. DJ Nightmare has a question. They have a trade offer for their James Conner, Saunch's touchdown guarantee last week that never was. I was shopping him around and got Breece Hall, which hit. He was shopping him around and got offered David Montgomery. What do you think? I'm scared of James Conner. Is this the time to exit the James Conner experience and buy some David Montgomery? Saunch?
Not for Montgomery, man. I do not want any piece of that Bears offense. I would rather have the guy on the Cardinals offense. As bad as it's been for Conner, I am 100% leaning Conner over Montgomery in this one.
So I am not afraid of David Montgomery. I think that if there's one piece of that offense that you're going to want to own, it's going to be the running back. Khalil Herbert, as a Bears fan, I have been privy to a lot of conversation about, is Khalil Herbert just straight up better than Montgomery? I think that they're both really good players, and they're both in a system that's really conducive to success for the running backs. I don't foresee a 50-50 split. If it's still closer to like 70-30, I think David Montgomery is a solid running back too, rest of the way. That being said, I'm staying on Conner in this situation just because of the potential upside, like we were saying, of Hopkins coming back and opening that offense up. James Conner looked incredible last year, and if that offense can get back to whatever changed from last year to this year, and the answer is probably Hopkins disappearing. But if they can kind of get back to that sort of situation where James Conner is getting a high opportunity for touchdowns again, like he was last year, he's going to outperform David Montgomery the rest of the way. So I think once they have Hopkins back in the passing game, I like Conner significantly more than I like Montgomery.
And last year when Montgomery went down, then Herbert kind of came in and balled out, and then Montgomery came back. He got his full workload back. I don't know if that's going to happen this year. I think Khalil Herbert's going to get way more carries even with Monty back. It's a brand new year. We can't go off of last year and what happened. They love Khalil Herbert.
New coaching staff.
Yeah, I don't think Montgomery is going to be the full workhorse when he comes back, especially off the injury. I think Khalil Herbert will be a permanent piece of that offense, unlike last year when Monty came back. But yeah, right. I'm leaning James Conner on the better offense.
Yeah, if you're looking at risk mitigation here, there's a lot more ways for Montgomery to bust than Conner rest of the way. So, and I feel like the upside is higher for Conner anyway. So that's kind of an easy one for me, despite my love for Dave Montgomery and the Bears. Let's rapid fire a few more of these mailbag questions and then call it a day. We did that one. Zachary in New Jersey with kind of a philosophy question here. How do you recommend dealing with managers who stop paying attention after starting 0-3?
Yikes. If it's a money league, you have to be on their ass, man. That's ruining the whole league, especially if you're playing for money. You have to let them know, like, listen, if you don't do this, like, you got to come to an agreement with your league and just, like, maybe agree on putting their highest, projected player in, just so the league's not ruined, as long as everyone agrees on it. And you have to let them know that, like, this is it for you. Like, we paid money. We take this seriously. You're ruining our fun. You're ruining our league. This isn't fair. You're talking about
setting their lineup for them.
If you talk to your league as commissioner and be like, if this guy's not going to take this money league seriously, like we all are, Every week we got to make sure like we'll put in their highest projected, and that's me. Like, there's multiple ways you can handle it, but I'm just not gonna let a roster like give out free wins. You make sure you're very open with your league about it, and don't just do anything like sketchy or shady. But you have to do something, especially if you're playing for money.
It really compromises the integrity of the league as far as, like you said, win losses go. But also, it sucks to just have a group of players who are untradeable because you can't get a hold of their manager. There's just so many ways that it just ruins the experience. And regardless of how you handle it this year, I think that it's probably time to move on from that manager next season, barring...
Get someone who cares. Get someone who takes it seriously.
Barring a really good explanation, but more likely than not, they just checked out. I have been in leagues where you pay a little bit additional upfront as like a security deposit. Saunch, was that your league? Probably not, right? That was probably a different league. Yeah. So
I've been trust in leagues everyone in ours.
Fair enough. To a fault sometimes, but I've been in a league where you pay like a $30, $40 fee upfront, and they make a deduction from that kind of deposit with every week that you start in an active player. If you check out, halfway through the season, and at the end of the year, if you don't get any of those strikes, you get the full deposit back. So that's a way financially to keep people engaged and in check.
Never heard of that.
On that's kind cool. Of the flip side of that, I'm in a league right now where, conversely, we paid extra upfront again, but this time it's for weekly kind of self-contained prizes based on incentives like, okay, this week, whoever has the highest scoring wide receiver gets like a $10 bonus. And next week is like, whoever scores the highest but still loses gets a 10-point bonus. So that way, even if you're out of the playoff runnings, you could still be playing for cash prizes every week because it's like a fresh chance. It's almost like daily fantasy,
Yeah, I'm in a lot of leagues where we do like the highest scored points on the week. That's $25-$50. So even if you're 0-7, you still have a chance to win some money, and it'll takes 2 minutes to edit your lineup. Come on.
Yep. So that's a way to keep people engaged. But if anybody just totally bells, regardless of how you handle it, I think they got to go next year. We kind of talked about James Conner already, but Sarah in California wants to know, is it time to start flexing waiver pickups over him? Kind of depends on your options.
Yeah, depends on the pickups.
Yeah, if you want to play the name game, I mean, Jeff Wilson probably, right, at this point. Curtis Samuel versus Tennessee this week, depending on your format. Connor. Yeah, I'm probably playing Connor as well. Romeo Dobbs versus the Giants.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Flip a coin.
Yeah, I
think the insight.
So if this is an umbrella question, time to start flexing waiver pickups, I think the answer is yes in general, but not all of them. It's just a matter of, which ones are the right matchups. So if you want to pick somebody up and play them based on their opportunity this week with their specific matchup, don't be afraid to do that. We talked last week, even the week before that, it's time to start throwing out draft capital and playing the guys who are producing. Jerry wants to know, what's up, Jerry? Gerald Everett or Tyler Higbee rest the season in half PPR. So I have them both in the league that I'm in with you, Sanchi, and I'm feeling really fortunate. And a lot of people out there are probably in similar situations where they drafted, a Cole Kmet, for example, off the top of my head, which is who I drafted.
A Kyle Pitts.
I think people are still reluctant to move on from Pitts. If you have Pitts, you probably don't have both Everett and Higbee, or aren't in a situation where you're trying to trade for them. Well, maybe.
You're probably pumped he's out this week. You could actually get some points at the position.
Brutal. Short answer here is I like Higbee rest of season. And again, just looking at the way that things are expected to change, Keenan Allen eventually, surely, probably is going to come back from the never-ending hamstring injury.
Bad hammy.
Everett's really taken advantage of his opportunities without Keenan Allen in a really potent offense, but there's a chance that goes away when Allen comes back. And Higbee's got the role that we hoped Allen Robinson would have on the Rams. That passing game runs through him and Cooper Kupp, and it's not even close.
That's it.
Yeah, Higbee's third overall in tight end target share in the league with 24%, and first overall in tight end targets. 38 targets. The usage has been consistent. It hasn't been boom or bust. I mean, I think it's the real deal, man. 9+ targets, 3 or 4 games, 5th in tight end red zone targets. Like, he hasn't scored yet. So despite those red zone targets, I think that he's got opportunity to regress positively for more touchdowns. So opposite trajectories, right? Everett's probably going to go down at some point. Higbee's going to start scoring. So that's where I am. Do you disagree with that, or should we move on?
I agree with you. I think they're both great options for where you got them in drafts, like in that horrible tight end wasteland. I'd be happy with one, but as you said on the Rams, it's either Cup or Higbee. No one else. I'm not comfortable starting anyone else on the Rams besides those two.
Wild.
I agree with more. So there's more heads to feed on the Chargers team, especially when Keenan Allen comes back. I'm leaning Higbee with you.
Oh, Caden. His biggest loss this year was trading Mark Andrews for Dallas Goedert and Javonte Williams.
Ooh.
In theory, should have been okay. Injuries happen. Can't really predict
one
it.
out.
Yeah, I think I would have made that trade if I were you as well. So take solace in the fact that, process over results, as we always say in the fantasy analyst community. You gotta trust the process. Sometimes things break badly in ways that you can't predict. This is one of those times, man.
Chin up.
Chin up.
It happens. We all hurt in fantasy football. It's just part of the game.
Saunch, I'll let you start with this one. Daryl in Nevada wants to know, at this point, what offenses are you targeting when you're streaming your defenses?
Can I say the Broncos now after
Broncos
or Colts?
I think you can, man.
The obvious one would be please don't kick me off, but the Chicago Bears, whoever's playing them, I am 100% comfortable with playing any defense against them. I think they're the clear-cut choice. Anyone struggling.
If I move this way, does it block my Bears blanket in the background?
I still see the logo a little bit.
The Chicago ears.
That'd be the number one. Sorry, Greg. If you see a team playing the Bears, it's a great stream. And you should probably do that the whole year.
They are on my list too.
Yeah.
Sad day. So there were a
hurts.
couple things I looked at for this question. I looked at a list of the most sacks given up per game for offenses. I looked at most turnovers given up per game and the least points scored per game. And when you look at the center of that Venn diagram of just deliciousness, the team that stands out, like you said, is the Colts. And I mean, the metrics support it.
Matt Ryan's a sitting duck in that.
They look terrible.
Man.
Well, they're dead last in points per game right now with 13.8, somehow worse than the Bears. They're tied for the highest total giveaways with 11, which doesn't even do justice to the amount of fumbles that they happen to not lose. Like Matt Ryan alone has 11 total fumbles. He only lost 3 of them, which is insane. And they're second in sacks allowed per game at 4.2, which is only 0.1 less than Washington, who's also a great target. The Bears, kind of the same situation. They're third in both most sacks per game and the least points scored, and they're top 8 in giveaways. So a lot of opportunity there for big defensive plays. And the Super Bowl champion Rams have given up the most points in the league to opposing fantasy defenses, which was shocking when I looked it up. Are you surprised to hear that? They're literally 32 out of 32.
I'm a little shocked, man, but Von Miller's gone.
Well, it's their offense. I'm saying has given up the most points to opposing defenses. Yeah, so 16 plus fantasy points for defenses starting against them in 3 out of 4 games. The exception being Arizona's defense. No surprise.
It's because Matt Stafford's elbow's barely hanging on, man. He's throwing picks. He's also. They're not looking too great for the Super Bowl champs.
No, they're not. 4 games so far. They have 2 games where they've given up at least 7 sacks, 2 games giving up a defensive touchdown, and 2 games with at least 3 turnovers. So, I don't know that I'm targeting them, but all this is to say that if you have a good defense and you're going against the Rams, don't be afraid to the point of where you feel like you have to drop them if you don't want to. You know what I mean?
We're underestimating how important OBJ was on that Super Bowl run, I think, for that offense.
I think so, man. Allen Robinson ain't it.
No, he's washed. You could cut him.
Juan in California, would you play Goff or Geno over Stafford this week? We are in overtime right now, so if you want to just kind of lightning around this. Jared Goff, QB5, Geno Smith, QB10. This is why I don't gamble with money.
Oh, man. Let me see these matchups real quick.
Yeah, Goff has the Patriots. Geno has the Saints. Rams against Dallas. Oof.
Dallas is an amazing defense. You said Geno has the Saints?
He does.
Yeah, I think I'm cool with rolling either of these two guys until I see Stafford get back to life. unless Cooper Kupp has a monster 3-touchdown performance, you're not going to be happy with what he gives you. Parsons might kill the man this week, bro. Like I hate to say that, but Stafford's going to be on his back this game. I think. I'm hoping they can pull the win off for my G-men. But I think as far as fantasy, I'm 100% cool with rolling Goff or Geno.
Yeah, Stafford has no ceiling in this matchup. It's just not happening. The way that the Cowboys have looked, I mean, they held Tom Brady and Joe Burrow to 10 and 15 points, respectively, earlier in the season, and Stafford is not coming anywhere near their offensive production right now. So I'm going to go Goff here. He's got Amon-Ra St. Brown back, we believe, which was kind of the variable for me. Even without him, he dropped 34 points last week with no Swift or Amon-Ra. Like we said, highest scoring offense in football right now, highest in yards gained, doesn't feel like a fluke. And I'm not as scared of the Patriots defense, I think, as I am the Saints. The only possible concern is the Patriots blitz a lot and Goff doesn't do super well against the blitz. So if there's a week where the wheels fall off, it could be this week. But to answer your question, ultimately, yes, I would flex, well, not flex, but I would play either of those guys over Stafford. And I'm giving the nod to Goff, but no fault for going Geno.
Yeah, for the sake of entertainment, I'm going to go Geno. And I quote unquote, they wrote me off. I ain't right back, though.
Quote of the year, man. I'm proud of him. Josh Green writing in, we'll sneak in one more question. Oh, this isn't a question. Teams playing New Orleans are worth the stream, too. Yeah, like you said, Geno this week. So, both good options, better options than Stafford. I feel good about it. And I think we have gotten through all of our questions. We're a little over time. Saunch, you have any closing words you want to wrap up with?
It's kind of crazy. We threw Metcalf and Lockett under the bus as soon as Russ went to Denver. We're like, Sutton and Judy, that's the new Metcalf and Lockett. Nope. Metcalf and Lockett are still the Metcalf and Lockett. And we were wrong, and we're willing to admit when we're wrong. And we take what we see. We change our fantasy football is about, not sticking to your guns. It's about change. It's about information, what you see with the eye test, and making those moves moving forward. You're going to be a completely different team, and you're going to have completely different thoughts by the end of the year than what you do when you start the draft. And you just got to keep being progressive. That's the advice I'll give you to close things out.
Well said, buddy. Thank you all for joining us on this Greg and Saunch Day on Fantasy Fanline. We'll be back next Saturday, every Saturday, the rest of the year, probably with expert guests moving forward. 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, or find us the next day on your favorite podcast platform. You can follow us on all social platforms at Fantasy Fanline. Visit our website, fantasyfanline.com, for a schedule of our upcoming guests, and to submit a question to our mailbag if you can't join us for the next show. Real quick.
One more question. Do I trade
Yeah, sorry,
Henry
I was reading a
Evans?
comment that just came in.
Last question. Well, we got you. Henry for Evans and Jacobs PPR. I think I would do it. Depending on the rest of the roster. I'm not sold on Henry being that elite guy he once was. I wasn't sold on Jacobs last week. He shut me up. Had a monster against Denver. It might because it's Denver, but to get Mike Evans too, if you have other good backs that you could plug in, I think I would do that.
I think it depends for me a little bit on what your wide receiving corps looks like. If you really need help there, I have no problem making this move. I think the value is good. More often than not, I do want to have the higher value player in the entire deal, which in this case is Henry. But, we talked before about spreading out your value across other positions in positions of need, or if you have a losing record. So it's a little situational. If you are banged up on your roster, you have a lot of holes, I have no problem doing this. I'm not going to lose any sleep because I love Jacobs the rest of the way, and Evans is a beast. And he's going to lose some production with Godwin coming back and potentially Julio, but he's still going to be great. He's great every year.
He's that guy.
Yeah,
he's a stud.
So go for it, man. Thanks for tuning in. All of you who joined us today, please, like I said, subscribe to our show. Oh, yeah, his Arby's, Cook and Henry, that is it.
Yeah, oh, man.
Wide receivers, Chase, Olave, Pittman, and Dobbs. That's a pretty strong wide receiver.
I like those receivers. I'd probably stay put with Henry then.
I'm going to change my answer. I'm glad I asked because the advice we give on this show, we like to be as situational as possible and personalize it to your roster, your format. Josh Green says sound like an 8-man
Throwing
league.
shade. Maybe he's a great drafter. He's a great drafter.
Yeah, I'm staying put, man. Cook and Henry are gonna take you to the promised land with that wide receiver corpse. But good question, man. Good luck. Thank you all for joining us today. Please subscribe. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/fantasyfanline. If you want to support us, we are an independent show, and any support that you give to us will go towards the bills that help us run this show, such as, our phone line, which is open every weekend, our streaming platform, our podcast platform. Bronco says, appreciate it. You're very welcome. Vision says, do you think Amon-Ra is not playing tomorrow? I heard that he was. He's back at practice, right?
I think he's playing.
Fire him up. Anyway, before we lose our train of thought, Saunch, anything else before I wrap it up here? I told him about the Patreon, told him about our website, told him about all the great stuff we do every weekend. I hope you all come back. Hope you give us a call next week, 618-FANLINE. Saunch, go Giants.
Remember to set those early lineups for the London game.
Oh, yeah, London game tomorrow where the Giants are going to trounce the Packers, right? If I say it's going to happen.
As 8-point underdogs. Any given Sunday. I'm not getting my hopes up. My money will not be on them, but I'll be up early, and I'll be cheering hard.
There you have it. For Saunchy Value, for anybody who beats the Packers this year, I am Greg Scalera. Thank you for tuning in. Hope to talk to you again next week on Fantasy Fanline. Goodbye, everybody.